All right, so today's video, we're watching a Bronze 1 tank on console. Gonna be playing some Winston, they say. But anyway, they say, disclaimer, Jasmine on my team is my girlfriend. So, she was pocketing me. Aware this probably makes my performance feel or look stats-wise much better than it was. So just to make this clear, you have a Mercy pocketing you on tank. Okay. I am Bronze / low Silver tank main who's never gotten higher than Silver 4. I've been playing for 6 years, Summer Games 2018, on and off, and just can't seem to climb into Gold or even high Silver. It isn't my teammates. I know it's me. I feel that my positioning or my ult tracking may be slightly off, as I've only recently started. I do attempt to make callouts to my girlfriend with no abilities or no Suzu, etc., being some of them. I've never watched pro play and videos like this for 6 years and have just seemed to never improve and have seemed to hit a brick wall whenever I do actually get to low Silver. Any advice would be appreciated. This should be a fun one. Should be a fun one. I don't know if they're playing Doom. They might switch again, because like we're just going off of what they said. Yeah, see, okay, they're on Winston now. See? So this is going to be in Bronze right now. This is a Bronze game. Could have some Silver players too, based off of the range, but... Okay, so they're running D.Va. I mean, honestly, I'm going to be real with you. Winston against that comp, it already feels kind of rough. And the reason why I say that is because... Oh, no. Okay, so I want to point something out to you. Stop using your bubble right away like that, okay? You know, the thing is, you were saying that was going to be a jumble? That wasn't even a jumble. So a jumble is a new thing that apparently Chad has come up with called the jump bubble, because I always talk about how you don't jump bubble, right? And the jump bubble is where your default strategy is just to jump in and bubble no matter what, which is very much an Overwatch 1 strategy. Does not work as well in Overwatch 2. But we'll go back to that a little bit later. But yeah, don't just bubble randomly like that. You're not playing Reinhardt. There's no reason to use that bubble. Use your utility correctly. Even if you're not playing well mechanically, like at least use your utility correctly. And just popping a bubble at the beginning of like a choke right there is just not how you want to do that, right? I also want to point out to you, you need to look at the heroes they have right away. So, for anybody wondering, I think the timer's like 15 seconds. You can, after 15 seconds into the game, you can see what comp they have. And that can help you kind of like decide right away who your dive targets are. If at any point here you try to really hard dive their Torb, Venture, or D.Va, you're not going to have a good time. This is very much one of those games where you have to look at their supports. Now, obviously, if a Venture's going to be right in front of you, you're going to get a free pick. But I want to see how you end up doing your dives. Remember, don't just bubble randomly. Okay, we did the old jumble. Although that one's a little bit better. See, that one might have been a cooldown timer one, but like, so far not bad. Decent start. Kiriko first, because they're going to go to the D.Va anyway. There you go. I guess you could dive the D.Va and they would go there, but keep in mind, in this time, wherever you dive is probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it. All right, here we go. Okay. That's why I always say delay the bubble. Even there, like, I see you bubble that, and, like, I feel like you're just bubbling the bubble, but I am okay with that, only because you're going to have it again. So it's like, hindsight. That's the bubbles where I question it a little bit. But we'll see where it goes. Definitely like using your bubbles, that's for sure. Okay, I mean, you've had a good start. The bubbles only working. I mean, it's just like it comes down to back to what we've seen with Winston before. Is like players just like use their bubble like it's a Ryan shield. Like right there, like you see a D.Va in front of you, no one's helping the D.Va, they have 1 HP, and then you use your bubble, and like, yeah, you're looking at it, they're going, okay, that's fine, but now you don't have 5 seconds of a bubble when, like, now you might want to have it already at this point. You're going to bubble again, aren't you? There it is. Wonderful. See what I mean? You're just hitting your bubble button to hit your bubble. Why? You're legit just bubbling nothing at that point. Like, you need to... When you're playing it, like, a hero like Winston, saving your bubble for as long as you can in some time, like, in some areas can be really good. That bubble I'm fine with because you're low HP. It makes sense, right? You want to bubble that because you're low HP and it gives you a little bit of cover. I get that. But now when you go back in again, now you don't have bubble, and now you're not waiting. You sit on your cooldowns. Good job getting out. Now you're going to bubble again, which you could argue the bubble's fine, but then you also just have line of sight to your back right. So it's like, do you want to use the bubbles the way you're doing? I think definitely so far the #1 issue you've had is your bubble usage is off, right? Mechanically, it's been okay. I do think what's happening too is you're getting pocketed the whole time, like legit the whole time. So sometimes you can kind of That's a good bubble because it saves your team. But then you can kind of develop some bad habits when you're just constantly getting pocketed the whole time. You see this sometimes. You ever been in like a ranked game where you have that DPS player who's only ever pocketed by someone every single time they play? They clearly are good, but then like when it comes to like their position, they constantly get rolled and they expect so much out of their teammates because they develop these bad habits because they've been pocketed for so long. They'll go in, and if they don't have a pocket, like say they get into a game where they're just like soloing and they don't have a pocket, they'll like run into their team, they'll finish the 22 deaths, and they're just like complaining and yelling at their team. But like in reality, it's because they developed so many bad habits that like when you get pocketed 24/7, by the time when you get to a certain point where that pocket doesn't work the same way it's gonna work, you're just gonna struggle because you've developed so many bad habits. And you need to kind of like fix that. So, is it fine to jumble when you're going on an Ana? Yeah. I mean, I think it's also hero dependent. Like, so yeah, of course, if like you're diving in Ana, think about this. Like if you dive in Ana, you can use a bubble early because you're preventing cooldowns in a 1v1. But if you're just diving a Venture and like you're just bubbling to bubble there under the ground, like are you using your bubble effectively? Probably not, right? So there's some things there that I think can definitely be worked on. I hope I'm making sense in some of this, but yeah. Anyway, diving in. That certainly, I mean, that bubble is one of those bubbles where it's like, you don't know if they're chasing you, but it was pretty obvious you were going to be safe there. Once again, little things like that can go a long way in improving your hero. And right now, your number one issue, in my opinion, is still your bubble. I think it's your bubble. So. Not bad. Yeah, your bubble usage. It's so clearly obvious to me that, like, your next step to getting better is, like, recognizing your bubble usage. Because you're just using it to use it, and that's a problem. Bubble. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we've hit jumble level now, chat. It's happening. Constant bubbles no matter what. Diving in without the bubbles. So now, like, yeah, you're getting in a limb, which actually is a good dive on their Mercy, but then, like, at the same time, you don't have your bubble that you could have had during that, which would have made it so you had more time. So, like, think about that. If you had a bubble when you made that initial dive, you could have bubbled them off at that point. Use that to get more limbs. And then boom, just like that, you're in a good spot. Instead, you wasted your bubble initially, you dove in, got a good pick, but then you couldn't do anything past that, and here you are. Also, there is a Venture behind you. I would recommend, yeah. By the way, you know what I love? This goes back to like the HP passive. Remember when people saw that tanks were going to get a little bit more HP and they were getting mad and angry about it? And then now we just watch a Winston there. Like, to this day, I still love that they have the regen in the game. It is definitely more of a quality of life change than it is a full-blown, like, game-breaking thing that everybody thought it was going to be. What are health packs? Oh, yeah, I mean, going for a health pack there is obviously huge, too. Yep. I think right now what's happening is they're in, like, they're in the part of the map where, like, it's, like, overtime almost, and as we've seen in overtime games, especially in, like, bronze, silver, it gets wild in overtime. Like, players, like, they forget how to play the game, they're all over the place, they just, like, health packs don't exist, target focus doesn't exist, the concept of, like, taking a team fight doesn't exist, they take 1v5s, etc., so, yep. There's the random bubble again, which you can argue is okay there, but, like, once again, like, it's you're doing it consistently, so at a certain point, it's something you need to fix to begin with. Now you're emoting in front of a Mercy resin. Thankfully, they were able to stop them from making any play there, and then there we go. Yeah, I think what happens is, too, you did mention that you're getting pocketed a lot, too. Like, I think that you'll develop some bad habits that way, so I really want you to work on your bubble usage. I think, like, the next step for you as a player is, like, you just need to use your abilities better. Like, it's that simple. I like, never go out this doorway, so that's always cool to see. Were you waiting on your pocket? Anyways, know what a good bubble is? Sure. Yeah, I got you on that one. Nothing good. I got you. I'll kind of explain in a second where I would see a bubble be a good usage. I got you. Oh, okay. There's the jumble. Okay. So, to give you an idea, this bubble actually kind of assists over here. But a lot of the time what you want the bubble to do is you want it to LOS people, right? You want it to, like, line of sight someone. You want it to prevent somebody from, like, doing something. So, in this situation, I probably wanted to bubble this because the D.Va is going to be out of LOS, right? Right? The bubble really isn't going to stop the Tor from getting the value you think they're going to get because of where you're playing, so you're going to be fine. You have cover, okay? So you see this. This is the first step, right? Where that bubble would be good. Now, where would you want to use an effective bubble? It depends, right? Let's say that you want to go for this Torb, which, I mean, Torb is an interesting dive target, then maybe you can argue, okay, you'll go for the torb, you won't bubble yet, and then you'll bubble to kind of play back and forth. Like, a lot of time what you want to do with bubbles, you want to play the bubble, right? You want to use it, like, as, like, a way to, like, go back and forth. So when you do this, like, jumble strategy of just jumping in and then never using your bubble to begin with, you lose the value of what that bubble is. So I think a lot of what this Winston does is they do exactly what we call, or what Chad has coined as the jumble, which is you jump in and you bubble and that's it. You said in Apex you call it bubble dancing? Yeah, bubble dancing is a good way to do it. So, like, you can use it for bubble dancing, you can use it for, like preventing line of sight, but if you're just using it to use it, sometimes it will accidentally work, and sometimes it will be terrible, and that's why, like, focusing on good bubble usage is going to be the correct play, because, like, you're going to be so consistent with making so your bubble, like, right there, like, why are you bubbling that? Because the vision here, right, and someone's going, yeah, because there's a torb, but, like, why bubble the torb there when the torb has nowhere to go outside of there? So if the torb decides to fight you, that's a win, right? You're almost baiting them into going for you, and you just win a team fight. Does that make sense? Like, you're baiting them into a bad play. But if you bubble, they're almost forced to back up to safety. So, like, you want to use that bubble later on to, like, let's say that, like, the torb's here, right? The torb's low, and the venture's low, right? Okay? Now, let's pretend that they do have a support up around them and all that, and they can keep them alive. You would go down here, and you would bubble them off so they don't get healed, and then go for the kill. You see the difference here? Right? See? See the difference? So your bubble here just loses value. It's not doing anything to save anybody. And then there's two people down here that, let's say there was a support nearby, which there might be. I don't see where... There's somewhere around here. Kiriko. How did I lose track of them? Where is their Kiriko? I'm just going to go to the Kiriko. So look where the Kiriko's at. They're actually... Oh, this is your team. Sorry. Their Kiriko's running back for... Oh, no, their Kiriko's right here. Yeah. So this would be perfect. So you would bubble off right here, and then the Kiriko that was back over here, right? The Kiriko that's back over here won't be able to heal them, and now your bubble works. And at the very least, they're going to have to TP into their teammate, right? They're going to have to TP into their teammate, and then you get a free pick on a Kiriko. But now your bubble's just being used as like a, oh, there's my bubble. So that's what I want to see you kind of get more in the mindset of good bubbles. Oh, time for a bubble. This one can work. I'll give you that one. And that one can work because you can bubble play that, like as we talked about. And it worked out. Right? That's a good bubble because now you have them separated and you can play the bubble better. Right? That one makes more sense. Now, if you bubble here randomly, this wouldn't make any sense. Right? So, wait for it. Okay, so back to the bubble usage. What is the point of this bubble that you just used? I want you to explain this to me. What is the point? There's no point. You just bubbled to bubble nothing. See what I mean? Just you're doing nothing to save you. You have so much cover around you, the bubble doesn't do anything. Now you don't have a bubble. Now, we'll see what happens. Okay, now you dive in. Just got your bubble back, and then you had to use a bad bubble because you used a bad bubble prior. You see how it's like a domino effect? A bad bubble leads to you then having to use your ultimates, using all your plays. Then you had another bad bubble. Same thing. Rinse and repeat. So that's why I want to see you really focus on better bubble usage. Okay? That's what I want to see. Wait. All right. Wonderful bubbles. Yep. Wonderful. Oh, we should bubble this. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Now, keep in mind, when I say we should bubble that, that's not what I mean at all. You see what I'm saying, chat? How, like, mechanically, I think they're going to be fine if they want to climb out of, like, silver or, like, bronze at this point. But, like, their bubbles, just the way you're playing Winston is just not optimal. Like, you're just... Yeah, I mean, that's straight up. Like, you're looking at the floor just to get rid of the bubble. I can already see it. You need a bubble. Like, I haven't bubbled in 2 seconds. I got a bubble. There it is. Wonderful. Great. What are you bubbling? Look what they are. Look at this. This is your bubbles. Do you see this? You have such a strong utility, like an ability here that you just are using like this consistently. Consistently. This is what we've been seeing. This is not a good bubble. Like, just because you have the ability does not mean just because you have the ability does not mean the ability needs to be used. That's simple. And that's what you're doing. You're just like, oh, I'm going to bubble. And now you're jumping into them, and you can see this, right? Chad, they want to be aggressive, and when you would want to use your bubble, right? Let me give you an example. I already know what's going to happen. Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but you have a Sombra who's going to go in an EMP. This is where your bubble could be effective to where you'd want to bubble, right? Because you could go in here, you could bubble around the EMP, and then, like, let's say that you go in at the same time and use this bubble. What if Kiriko goes to, like, TPs out and tries to cleanse him, and now your bubble blocks the people who are EMP, right? Things like that, plays like that. So you could literally put a bubble down and help your EMP by just having, like, an effective radius for your Sombra also to be able to follow up. So my guess is Sombra's going to try to EMP. Follow-up's not going to be good. You're not going to have your bubble, and you're either going to get rolled or you're going to have to fall back. Now, you could win it, but that's what it feels like will happen here, just based on what I'm seeing. Okay, there it is. There it is. Now, look at this. By the time you bubbled, by the way, okay, it was already going to be too late to prevent some of their plays. So now, instead of, like, winning that cleanly, right, and not even have to waste your ultimates, right, your teammates had to use almost, like, everything they had just to win that team fight. So, yeah, you won, but now look at the other team's ultimate. All because you couldn't go in there and have a good follow-up. Now, it doesn't mean that your teammates won't use their ultimates. It is silver and, like, bronze. So, like, a lot of the time, players just will use ultimates regardless. But point being is it would be nice to have bubbles in those situations, right? That is a Kitsune, so I'd be careful of fighting in that, because I'm telling you right now, it's that was certainly an interesting take on that. And there's the bubble. Of course, there's the bubble. Why wouldn't we bubble that? Don't bubble that! It's like, use your good cover. Oh, no bubble. Can't use bubble to bubble off the ultimate. All right, here we go. Oh, it's... You're not playing Reinhardt. I swear, if this bubble comes out, you're going to jump in the air because it's going to come up and you're going to bubble. You're just going to bubble. Even better. That bubble's fine, but, like, it's already over. It doesn't even matter. And do you see what I mean about bubble usage? It leads to so many, like, plays that wouldn't necessarily happen, is basically what I'm saying. If it has a domino effect, is basically where I'm at with that one. It's just, like, your bad ability usage can lead to, like, a chain effect of, like, your team, like, you just losing a team fight. And you don't recognize it when it's happening because, like, you don't see that, but I'm telling you right now, you say you throw out 100 bubbles a game, I want to see you reduce that to 50 quality bubbles rather than 90 bad bubbles. That make sense? Let's do 50 quality bubbles instead of 100 or 90 bad bubbles, okay? Great start. Thankfully, a Torb decided that your spawn was the best place to run to. Oh, if we don't jump in and bubble right away, I'm going to be upset. Oh, wait. I mean, I'm upset now. We didn't bubble. This is good. That's good. Good job not wasting bubble there. I'm very happy with the... I can't even go 3 seconds without complimenting a good usage of a bubble. Or a non-bubble. I can't even go 3 seconds. Can't even go 3 seconds on this one. Now you would like to have your bubble because now they're in the spot they would go to if you jumped at them without the bubble. Oh, great. Wonderful. Let's bubble off. Keep in mind, I might be being a bit too picky on the bubble sometimes. Like, that bubble, like, we can argue it was good because, like, it's just, like, keeps your teammates' safety on the point. But even then, like, I probably wouldn't use bubble in that situation. And before I play Winston today and bubble terribly. Yeah, it's more about timings on that one, right? Here we go. Dive their back line. There you go. Don't bubble it yet. Okay, don't Winston out there. There you got a kill. Never mind. Good Winston ult. I thought you were fine. I'll be honest with you. But that was good. That was good ult. I would have done the same thing. I'll give it to you. Play-by-play when to bubble. So situational. I can only really point out the bad bubbles because they're consistently bad. You know what I mean? Because, like, to give you an idea, it's sometimes hard for me to explain where a good bubble would be, like, a good spot, and I'll explain why here for a second. The reason being is because, like, the fights won't break out. Like, the fights won't break out the way they're supposed to break out if you're just using your bubbles terribly to begin with. Does that make sense? Because, like, the reaction by them is going to be a lot different. And most of the time, their reaction is just going to kill your teammates or, like, finding other value elsewhere. So that's why, like, I can only explain to you, like, the premise of a good bubble more than I can showcase where a good bubble would be half the time. Because sometimes it doesn't change. But just remember this. Like, a good, like, starter point on bubbles is this. If you're blocking line of sight of damage and healing from somebody, probably good. If your bubble is being used to kind of go back and forth on to maximize damage output, it's probably going to be good. And if your bubble is able to zone out an area that really benefits your team, it's probably good. But if your reaction is to jump and bubble, the jumble that chat has referenced, it's not going to be usually a good bubble. Now, the jump bubble strategy used to be a bit more of a strategy in Overwatch 1. A lot of that was because, like, you would bubble and then you'd have other utility to help you, right? So the bubble was a little bit easier to waste because then you'd have a diva follow up with you to, like, eat your damage on you. You have a Zarya to bubble you. Any type of, like, meta you saw with Winston, you were going to have somebody else who could help you in those situations, right? So a wasted bubble or a bubble that was a little bit worse in that, like, that what you call the jumble made a little bit more sense, right? Because you had more things to help you after, so you were using it more as, like, kind of like a distraction. That's not the case in Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2. Your utility is so much more important now that when you waste the utility like that and you make plays the way that you're making them, it's gonna be a struggle. And that's why, like, I need to make sure that that they're getting in the habit of better bubbles, rather than this, like, jumble strategy, right? Like, they're gonna see this like that. Like, what in the world is that? Like, maybe it's to keep your Mercy alive, but, like, even then, like, why? It doesn't even make any sense. That's just gonna be on your Mercy's bad position, and then it's gonna be on you, right? Like, why are you doing this? You said you didn't see them press right-click or use the 140 damage burst leap combo yet? I think this is gonna be a helpful tip or a response to this. Dude, they're in bronze. You gotta start with the basics. If you try to overcomplicate their playstyle, none of that burst damage is gonna matter right now. They're in bronze. Like, don't get me wrong, if, like, their mechanical skill starts to climb and they want to add the 140 burst damage combo, I think, like, that's fine. Like, you can implement that. If you feel like you can implement something really cool like that, I think that's going to be okay, right? Like, I am totally okay with that if you want to implement something like that. But let's go back to the flip side of that, is if they're in bronze, it's not going to be a necessity. Things like this, like fixing your bubbles, like fixing some of your mechanics out, like, that's not the burst damage, like where you jump to, where you know, how your Winston ults will be. That's going to be a little bit better than just, like, telling them to do the burst damage bubble. Now, let's say that I'm watching a Masters Winston right now and I watch them go in. Like, they just go, like, I watch them go in and they just don't ever use that. Then you can start to bring that up, because if they're in Masters, now they can really fine-tune their mechanical play, right? So there's sometimes that by the way, and sometimes people like to hear this and sometimes they won't. That's also why, like, when we look at the game in general and how it's balanced, there's a lot of variables that go into it, where a way that a player is going to play in bronze is way different than top 500. So if every change I want is going to benefit purely top 500, it could have adverse effects in, like, bronze, right? If I'm like, dude, Reaper's... If I just go, dude, Reaper's terrible. They need to make it so Reaper does 80% damage to tanks because Reaper gets no value. In top 500, we'll be able to deal with that a lot easier because we have utility, we can heal. But in a bronze game, a Reaper will run around and dominate that lobby, right? Which is why sometimes, like, there needs to be, some heroes have different ways they balance them, etc. And that's why, like, I need to look at these differently each time I go through each stuff. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a side tangent / rant right there, but I think it's also okay to bring up that point sometimes, that, like, expectations of each rank is going to play differently. And I need to also have that and take that into account when I'm doing these type of reviews, because you don't want to information overload them either. Is that good? Yep. Anyway, continue on here with the rest of this VOD. And that bubble was not good. Just to go there. Now you don't have your bubble when you kind of deep dive in, and, like, you got the LM, so it works, but I still think having a bubble there is going to be good to have. Yeah.
Your assistance is appreciated.
Enemy turret down.
And I can finally give you an example of a good bubble. That was a good bubble. Remember, the Venture Ultimate can't travel through shields, right? So bubbling off the Venture Ultimate is a good usage of a bubble. That right there. That's what we like to see. But I think that's accidental. By the way, I think that bubble usage is accidental. I don't even think they thought about the Venture Ultimate. I think they just used it because that's their playstyle, which is why I want to get them in the good habit of using the bubbles correctly. Because sometimes you're going to have a good bubble if you use 100 of them, right? But, like, I think it's their habit of how they use their bubbles. Which is the problem. Yep. Now you don't have a bubble. And that's why right there, That's why right there, it's so important to have your bubble when you need it and not to use it randomly. Do you see what happens? You get rolled off of the easiest diva ult to dodge if you have a bubble in that situation. Once again, obviously you had to use it prior for multiple reasons. They had jump. They did have jump. I think they thought they'd get around the corner, but like, you know, that's why I think there's a lot they can improve on. I really do. Their ability. Oh, I know they could have jumped onto the roof. I'm going to be honest with you, chat. You want to know why I didn't comment on jumping onto the roof there? If you've played Winston, how often have you tried to jump away from a diva ult and then out of nowhere you get clotheslined by one of the random objects on a wall? Like, I know for a fact that if I jump here to get away from that diva ult, I'm somehow going to hit, like, the side of this, like, palm tree right here and land right here and die to it anyway. So that's why I didn't really react to it, because then if they try to jump up, it's like they have a lot of float time. The only real safety net spot they could go to is, like, here, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they couldn't have tried, right? They could have done, like, a jump over here, things like that. I'm not saying they couldn't have. I'm just saying, like, sometimes it can also base it off of the results that you've seen happen before, and maybe they've jumped away from that ult a few times and get rolled. Or maybe they thought they were fine. There's probably a reason behind it. I don't think they went, well, there's a diva ult. Well, what a treat. Let me just stand here, right? There's probably a reason there. But yeah, there's definitely ways they could have went, for sure. You would have jumped to the jacuzzi, yeah, and fell off anyways. Yeah, but at least if you die to the diva ult, you can be like, hey, I died to the diva ult. If you fall off the map, they're like, dude, Winston, you throw my games? What are you doing? How dare you throw my single-player game? Are you kidding me? All right, good bubble usage will win you this game. So what I want to see is a... Okay, that's not good bubble usage because you're in a small, tight hallway that you don't need to bubble this off. Now, thankfully, the venture is this. Go for the venture. Yes. Okay, you saw them behind you. Don't overextend for this venture, though. You know they're behind you. I want you to go forward and make sure you bubble kind of towards the point and on the point to help with LOS. Don't jump and bubble at the corner because you have natural cover. Wonderful. Okay, let's just bubble. Go for the ult. Yep. I'm not going to comment on that bubble because that bubble does have usefulness. So that bubble, the reason why I don't comment on that bubble so people understand, I call that kind of like a sustained bubble. So what that is like sometimes it's okay to, like, if you're in like a 5v3, a 5v2, to throw a bubble kind of like in the middle if you know they don't have like a diva ult, for example. You know they don't have it because you died to it, right? So then you can like throw the bubble down on the ground, let your teammates get healed up. It helps them survive, right? So that's a bubble in those type of situations where I'm okay with like a 5v2 because you're using that to make sure and guarantee that your current teammates are going to be fine, right? So that's something I do want you to be a little bit of like, yeah. So anyway, that's just something that is good to have. How many times has bubble been mentioned today? Sometimes we need to really get the point across, and bubbles are a part of the problem for this player. Stop emoting at the end of games. Stop emoting at the end of games. Win the game first. This is the second time I've seen you do that. Win the damn game first, I'm telling you. Stop doing that. Just win. Now you can emote. You're good. No one's there. Now you can emote. Don't do that beforehand. I'm telling you, you're gonna lose a game that way, and it's gonna piss you off, man, and your teammates. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where you do that one emote and then boom, that's it. So anyway, I think this is pretty straightforward for me. Mechanically, I think you're okay mechanically. I'm not actually worried about too much of that. Obviously, like someone did bring up like, oh, they're not using like their jump bubble, and I can see that if you really want to add that combo in, it's when you jump in, you also hit like your melee at the same time. If you want to add an extra dynamic to it, you right click. So you charge up your shot, and then when you land, you do that, you have a bunch of damage. So if you want to add that, go for it. But that's not your issue. I don't think it's your mechanics right now. It is your ability usage. It is not good. And I don't know if it's because you only play like you get pocketed, so you develop bad habits, but I think like the difference between you climbing is your ability usage. Use your abilities with reason. So remember, 50 good bubbles in a game is going to be better than 90 terrible bubbles. So like, stop thinking about using your bubble because it's up. Think about what your bubble does. Does it line of sight? Does it create line of sight issues where the healer can't heal through it? Like an Ana, she can't support her teammates through the bubble because it's at an angle, right? You just can't do that. Like, it's not going to happen. The point I'm making here is look for where your bubble can get that value rather than just using your bubble to bubble. Get out of the jumble mindset and get into the what can my bubble do here to help my team? And that is what you need to really look at. And when you start doing that, I think you'll be in a really good spot. But I do want you to be a little bit careful and like wary of that, of where like how that could go for you. Okay, so just be careful. And but I think like that's going to be your number one issue. Work on your bubble usage, and then everything else will get better. But I think that's really what's going to keep holding you back, is if you have bad ability usage, you can have the best mechanics in the world, it'll only get you so far. And I think, like, that's your first step. So look at this, look at your bubbles, recognize why they aren't good, and then start to get better usage. And then obviously we can see where are they now in a few months or whatever and see if you've improved that. All right? You got this. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to all 3 YouTubes if you haven't. Leave a comment. All of that helps. If you want to submit your own play of the games or spectating, etc., my Discord is where to do that, which is in the description below. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do that. We also record these live on stream. You can see the Twitch app below the webcam. I'll stream on YouTube too, so if you haven't stopped by there, stop by. We have a lot of fun. And with that being said, I hope you have an amazing day/night.